Hi, welcome to Take 5, where we daily consider devotional thoughts from Oswald Chambers' book, My Utmost for His Highest. Today is July 29th, and the title of today's devotional is, Do You See Jesus in Your Clouds? Behold, He is coming with clouds, Revelation 1 and verse 7. Chambers begins with, in the Bible, clouds are always associated with God. He then steps off into an alliteration of the word. Clouds are the sorrows, sufferings, or providential circumstances within or without our personal lives which seem to contradict the sovereignty of God. There's a feeling of elation experienced when the clouds part and light breaks through. It lifts one's spirits. Chambers speaks in a spiritual sense of the clouds being sorrows and sufferings. He continues, it is by those very clouds that the Spirit of God is teaching us how to walk by faith. If there were never any clouds in our lives, we would have no faith. Pause to consider how awesome this reflection is of Chambers. Were it not for sorrows and sufferings in our life, times of sadness and despair, would we even have reason to consider God and look to Him for help? Atheists are quick to argue that if there is a God, then why does He permit suffering and pain? Wouldn't He want to relieve us of that? The response is found in Chambers' thoughts that the clouds of life give us reason to look to God due to the imperfections of this current state in which we live. If all were perfect here, towards what would we look forward? Moving on, Chambers draws on Nahum 1 and verse 3. The clouds are but the dust of our Father's feet. They are a sign that God is there. Genesis 9 speaks of the rainbow being a sign from God that He won't again destroy the earth by flood. Here, Chambers presents a much less quoted verse stating that clouds are reminders of God's presence by being the dust beneath His feet. O.C. encourages us, what a revelation it is to know that sorrow and bereavement and suffering are actually the clouds that come along with God. God cannot come near us without clouds. He does not come in clear, shining brightness. This requires some consideration to work through. God cannot come near without clouds. When do you often think about God? Is it not often when your back is to the wall, you're feeling hard-pressed about certain issues of life during times of hardship? We often take no notice of God in good times, but we certainly do when we are in trials. Look at how Chambers explains this. It is not true to say that God wants to teach us something in our trials. Through every cloud He brings, He wants us to unlearn something. Wow, God allows for difficulty so to help us to unlearn fear, to unlearn doubt and worry and despair. Chambers continues, his purpose in the cloud is to simplify our belief until our relationship to Him is exactly that of a child, a relationship simply between God and our own souls and where other people are but shadows. A big point in his thoughts are to not let other people disturb us. What can mere man do to me? Continuing, until other people become shadows to us, clouds and darkness will be ours every once in a while. Is the relationship with God becoming more simple than it has ever been? Chambers shares that we have to learn to interpret the mysteries of life in the light of our knowledge of God. This would seem to work with that of looking for God's hand at work in all the circumstances of our lives, as Romans 8:28 shares. His next statement is quite challenging. Until we can come face to face with the deepest, darkest fact of life without damaging our view of God's character, we do not yet know Him. We must not resist the fact of God being present and indeed directing different events, very difficult events which we may term trials and hardships. We must see Him as the God who has purpose in all events. We must move past allowing ourselves to think God is against us if certain dark events occur, and instead receive His presence and purpose. Closing with quotes from two of the gospel accounts of the Mount of Transfiguration, the apostles were fearful when first covered by the cloud, yet once it lifted, all they saw was Jesus, and so must we. In the end, the only one who must remain to us is Jesus. Listen to Him. Thanks for being here today, and now may God's grace and peace be ours as we seek to live our utmost for His highest. Have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.